Hello, my name is Ludovica Serratrice and I'm a professor of Bi-Multilingualism at the Centre for Literacy and Multilingualism at the University of Reading. I'm a psycholinguist by training and my research interests are in language acquisition, in particular in bilingual children.
And I'm Alessandra Valentini and I'm a postdoctoral researcher at SALM at the University of Reading. I'm a developmental psychologist interested in vocabulary acquisition and reading in children. And we are here today to talk about our project on how children who are bilingual, that is, who have English as an additional language, understand spoken and written language.
So growing up bilingual is the rule rather than the exception around the world, and bilingual children are, broadly speaking, children who have two or potentially more languages in their everyday life. So children can become bilingual in many different ways. Some children have got a language at home that is different from the language of the community. Some children may have more than one language at home. Some children are exposed to two languages from birth or very early on in childhood. Some children come into contact with a second language later on when they start school. Speaking more than one language is definitely an asset, and although of course learning English is important, home language maintenance should be encouraged wherever possible. Because children hear two languages in the course of their daily lives, exposure to each language will affect the number of the words that they know in each language, how they cope with grammar in the two languages, and in turn these factors will predict how well children will understand a text, a story, in either spoken or written modality. So to understand a story, whether it's a written text or a spoken text, we obviously have to understand what is being explicitly said in the text, so the literal meaning of the story. But of course, we need more than that when it comes to story comprehension, and we have to go beyond that to make informed guesses about what is being implicitly said in the text. So we need to connect information that is already available within the text, but also we need to connect what is in the text with our knowledge of the world, and so to make guesses that rely on global knowledge.
So there are many factors that influence how well bilingual children can understand a spoken or written text. So, of course, the first important factor is how much English they've been exposed to since birth, but there are other factors such as cognitive factors and linguistic factors. By cognitive factors, we mean factors like memory, which is how well they can retain and manipulate information while they are listening or reading to the text, and also attention, so how well they can pay attention to the relevant information. By linguistic factors, we mean vocabulary, which is how many words children know and how well they know the meanings of these words, and grammar, so how well they know the structures of the language they're using and how well they understand word endings.
So in our project, we wanted to see how the linguistic and cognitive factors of our bilingual children developed and how they affected their story comprehension. So we saw the children every 6 months, starting at the beginning of year 1 in primary school and ending at the beginning of year 2 of primary school. So at the beginning, the children were about 6. And every 6 months, they completed a series of linguistic and cognitive tasks and also listened to 3 different stories, and they were asked a few comprehension questions of the stories, and this is how we assessed their understanding.
Our children were a very heterogeneous group, so they spoke 20 different languages and their starting point in English was very different. So we had some children that were basically new to English, so they just arrived, and we had some children who were very, very fluent. Nevertheless, all the children improved their vocabulary and their grammar ability in English over the course of 12 months. In our project, 2 skills were mostly linked to listening comprehension. One was vocabulary, especially how well children knew the meaning of the words. And the other was grammar. But within grammar, especially children's ability to use and understand the meaning of the endings of the words, like the S in cat. Crucially, we also found that English input had an indirect effect on listening comprehension through vocabulary and grammar.
So we know from previous research on monolingual children that vocabulary skills, specifically not just how many words children know, but how well they know the meaning of words, and an understanding of grammar are crucial for story comprehension. At the same time, we know less about how these skills are important for bilingual children. And for bilingual children, of course, we have to remember that because they have divided input across two languages, we may have to take that into account. And we know also less about how these skills develop over time. So this is where our project comes in, because our project was longitudinal, so we track children's development over time. And because of the very wide number of languages that we had in our group, so more than 20 languages for 89 children, we were not in a position to test children's development in their other language. Nevertheless, we think that our project has made a contribution to our understanding of how story comprehension develops over time. If you want to find out more, go to our website, and grazie per l'attenzione.